Oh my god. See, that's the only one that will trigger. All right, so I can't empty net, which I actually don't think is a bad thing. Playing for OT is okay. No, we're going to do it before OT. Dallas, like... All right, here's how to do the Artemi Panarin moments. I am going to make a very blanket statement here about the Artemi Panarin moments that have you unlocking the Titan Artemi Panarin, and that is, if you are not a skilled player at this game, I'm going to make a generalization here, but if you have a hard time getting to Division 2 in Rivals, or struggle with Superstar squad battles, do not attempt to finish this path to get all of the collectibles to get the free Artemi Panarin. I don't care what creator or what clip you have seen, I personally spent 7 hours on the 3 top shelf goals, and it wasn't due to a lack of knowing how to score, it was due to a lack of being able to recreate something consistently enough to actually, A, get the goals to track the amount of times that I scored top shelf goals that did not count, as well as the fact that it's listed as pro difficulty, but it is clearly not. All of that I'm going to discuss, but what I would recommend is to do the 6 moments that come before it, which would net you 13 of the Titans Panarin collectibles, and then get the remaining 12 by trading in your set fodder. Do not do this until the Supernatural and Fantasy event is over, because those 2 events are timed until Friday. You have longer to do the Artemi Panarin. Again, all set fodder and everything in your collection should be going to the Fantasy event. So with that being said, I'm going to walk you through how to do all of these objectives, and then I'm going to show you how I was able to finish the top shelf goals with Panarin, again, after 6 hours of trying this challenge, as well as the final 2. But again, I think for the majority of the player base, it is simply your pride and FOMO that will have you sitting in this moment and challenge for hours on end and leave you with nothing but frustration. And again, I don't think it is a skill issue. The game does simply not track correctly all of the goals when you actually score, which is a major issue and why this should not be one of the challenges. All right, up first is perform any deke with Artemi Panarin. You need to do 3 different dekes. Again, extremely easy. What I recommend is just go in the offensive zone with Artemi Panarin and toe drag around the offensive zone. If you watched my How to Get Started video back early on when NHL 25 launched, it was exactly how I recommend to get all of the deke milestone objectives done. This is very easy. Shouldn't take any longer than a minute. Next up, make perfect one-timer shot attempts with Artemi Panarin. This one can actually be kind of annoying, simply because you have a forward and not a defenseman, so getting one-timer shots, they're obviously a lot more covered. The easiest way that I found was to switch to the behind-the-net strategy by using the directional pad if you're on total controls, or beer circle to get to the line combinations. Change to behind the net. Overload is the set one, and while you can still do that, at least with behind the net, it opens up the one-timer spot right at the face-off dot, which was an alternative easy way to do it. All right, our first semi-difficult one for a lot of the player base, score a bottom right corner goal with Artemi Panarin. The easiest way I found was to get a breakaway on the rush. You should still be able to beat a lot of these players on semi-pro. When you're coming through the neutral zone, if you hold down left trigger to start the next-gen vision control and move your left stick to the left to kind of open up your feet, you'll get a little bit of a boost to keep your skating through the neutral zone, which will give you a breakaway, and then it's simply backhand to forehand on a breakaway. Now on to scoring 2 goals with Panarin on the pro difficulty against the Flyers. Again, you want to focus on trying to get a breakaway by the same method I told you. Again, using that little stutter step with L2 can help you get by a defender, especially wide. If you are up by 1 and you have a goal already, make sure that you pull your goalie so that they can tie it to send it to overtime. But more importantly, if you don't get it in OT and you already have 1, the shootout will count. Just don't choke it. Another way to get yourself some goals with Panarin is if you bring him right to the point so that he switches with your defender, you can use that gold 1T and hammer home D to D one-timers fairly easy, and it's something that you could continuously do. And then don't forget, if you are up by 1, you have a goal, they will pull their goaltender, at which point you just got to send it into the open net. Following that is take 3 more one-timer shots with Panarin. And again, just like the prior one, you can do this by either switching to behind the net and aiming for Panarin at that face-off dot, or you can manually bring him to the point so that he switches with your defender, and then just continually feed him over and over again. If you're having a hard time getting the skill-based one-timers, make sure that you flick up right as the puck is about to get to Panarin, and again, this shouldn't take you very long. Next up against the Capitals, you've got to score 2 goals with Panarin via the one-timer. Now, helping you out here is the fact that he's got gold 1T. I actually thought this was going to be pretty difficult, but again, if you run behind the net, he will get open in front in the face-off dot, and eventually if you feed him there, he will be able to beat the goaltender because of the 1T ability, and it's a play that I just kind of did over and over again, and I eventually got it completed. Now, like I mentioned, for majority of the player base, just stop here. Obviously, out of curiosity, give the 3 top shelf goals a try, but I swear, if you put in like a half an hour, they're going to get their hooks into you, and for a lot of the player base, myself included, you're just going to sit there for hours because you're a completionist, and like I mentioned, it is fundamentally flawed because it will not track correctly, so you could just be wasting hours even when you do complete it. All right, so here is how I was able to complete the 3 top shelf goals. My first one was a D to D one-timer, again, by bringing Artemi Panarin all the way to the point, getting my defenseman to switch, and then just feeding him a one-timer. The issue I kept running into and why I wasn't able to succeed with this over and over again was because Artemi Panarin refused to aim for the top part of the net. I've been playing this game for 20 years now, and when I play rivals or squad battles or literally anything other than this specific challenge, I can hit just under the bar. And for whatever reason, when I took the one-timers or even the one-timer from the face-off dot or wrist shots upstairs, it would always just stay about blocker high, which was one of the most frustrating parts of this entire challenge. And then when I was able to actually get a shot to go upstairs via one-timers or wrist shots, stuff like this would happen. A good screenshot I found on Reddit where there would be times where the puck would go right under the bar and it still wouldn't count, which is why I just kind of abandoned it, but this one was able to go in. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I really didn't find something that you could replicate all the time and guarantee yourself goals. Again, for whatever reason, the very popular backhand-forehand D would never lift up high enough to actually count as a top shelf goal. But just like I had shown earlier in other challenges, if you L2 right at the blue line or right when you're about to pass the defender, you can normally get by them. And then when you're in tight on the forehand, this is probably the way that I would recommend to score if you are going to just continually do one thing over and over again, and it's simply backhand, forehand, aim upstairs. But I have to be honest here. If you experience anything like what I did, I scored this goal maybe 20 times in the hours that I was trying to do this, and it might have counted 4 times in total. Even when it went clearly top shelf, it just wouldn't count, or even when aiming up high, it just wouldn't go high enough when he shot it. That said, after my 4,000th attempt, it was done. Let's go! Bull ass game. Top shelf these nuts. So again, it is simply just the backhand, forehand, right around the goal line, and with the left stick, you're aiming upstairs. Again, I did this so many times, guys. It is not consistent, and anything that any of the creators are going to show you about goals that will work in this mode, they are not able to be recreated consistently. This was just how I did it. And again, this is one of the reasons why this is not worth trying to complete until they either change the fact that they require top shelf goals and just change it to goals in general, or get rid of the arcade slider or whatever is going on this specific moment so that you can actually complete it without just having to get lucky. Now, the final 2 are hilarious because they're technically on a harder difficulty, including the 5 points with Panarin on All-Star. I did this without paying attention, talking to chat the entire time. And like I said, I just passively completed this, which again goes to show that that prior moment is not on a normal difficulty. There is something going on that makes it as difficult as it was, which made the whole experience extremely frustrating because it wasn't listed as the Superstar Titan moments. It was just do this on Pro, which is completely misleading to the player base. And then the final moment is to simply win the game down by 2 on Superstar on a 3-minute period. And again, if you've gotten to this point, then you know how to score. And even though it says it's listed as Superstar, like I said, if you got the 3 top shelf goals, you were born for this. Now, I want to be clear. I actually love the fact that there is a moments path that allows you to get technically the highest rated card that isn't a fantasy item in the game, and all of it to be done via moments, which allows offline players as well as online players to all compete. I also love that it's very difficult. Again, the issue lies in the fact that if it's going to be insanely difficult, when you actually do the thing it's asking you to do, it needs to track 100% of the time. The gameplay and everything else needs to be consistent across the board. And again, don't lie to the player base. If they were to call this the Superstar Titan Extreme Panarin moment grind, players would have understood that going into this is going to be and meant to be extremely difficult. I actually kind of hope they do this again with the pretense of all of that. It is set to be extremely hard. The MLB does this very well. The extreme moments are a big time event in the MLB community. They are known to be extremely difficult and frustrating, but again, they usually work when you actually do them. That said, I hope this kind of helps out make your decision on what to do with Panarin. If you decide to want to try and get the grind done, I respect it. But like I said, for the normal player, it is just simply not worth it. Wait until the fantasy event ends, and then if you've got enough cards in your collection, go ahead and make it. Panarin is a fantastic card. Again, the highest rated that you can get in the game currently that isn't a chase card or a hologram power-up icon, so a fantastic option. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.